My name is Ryan Hootmacher, and I'm the founder of a company called the Well Beyond Food Project. And today, we're going to look at happy hour, and we're going to go beyond happy hour and look at this idea of how we can transform moments with our coworkers into meaningful experiences that build trust and connection. So we're going beyond happy hour. And so I want to put out to you, it's going to be interactive, but we have a lot of training to do today with some terms here. So we want to interact in the chat for right now. And I want to see in the last 2 years, how many of you have been to a happy hour? And that goes for the same who do virtual happy hours if you're in a remote or hybrid work environment.
Put a yes in the chat. Yeppers.
Yes. Okay. So thanks for interacting with that. Now, I wanna put it out there. Have some of these happy hours been a little bit lackluster, maybe a little bit awkward, perhaps forgettable? Put a yes in the chat or a no. Tiffany's super awkward. I love that. So the super awkwardness, this idea of it's hard to do a happy hour that has impact. And if this is for you, then you're in the right place right now. So I want to get to it. If some of you are open to sharing and kind of coming off of being muted, what inspired you to be here today? What was it about the way this was marketed beyond happy hour and creating impact? Does anybody feel like sharing?
Wade.
I'll go. I'll actually say I relate to this in many ways, but the thing that actually resonated with me the most is my favorite date with a partner is over cooking. And I realized how much fun I have with someone else, getting to know them through that. It's a very easy way to get to know someone because it's something that we all love food, right? And so I just had really good experiences with that. And it's like, well, why not try to replicate that in other areas?
So it's this idea of food being the universal language that can connect us. And it kind of helps to break down walls, no matter if it's a work scenario or maybe even in your personal life, Wade's dating life, maybe we'll say. Anybody else want to share why they might be here today?
I'll go ahead, Ryan. I just think back to what Wade was saying about in the chat about it being forced. I know what you did for the company dinner that we did when we were in Chicago, and I wanted to see what you could do for happy hour because I find that those tend to be a very forced event, and it's hard to find common ground with people, and it just is painfully awkward sometimes.
I love that. I love that you're open to the process, by the way, because as an experienced designer yourself, we're always looking for new strategies and new ways to connect. So I appreciate that. There's going to be a lot of strategy today. So what I want to do is I want to put us in the moment. And so since it's 5 o'clock somewhere, I want to set the tone right now of imagine yourself before all your other colleagues arrive. You're at a happy hour. You're on a veranda overlooking the city, people watching. There's a gentle breeze. It's 68 degrees. The sun is setting in about an hour. And it's carte blanche because you're not paying for this. You get the company card. What cocktail comes to mind right now? What are you feeling? Go ahead and put that in the chat. What is your go-to cocktail or maybe non-alcoholic beverage for happy hour? Just to set the mood right there. I'm assuming it's an Aperol Spritz, bourbon, Negroni, or a bourbon on the rocks. Dustin's hitting it hard quick and has a sophisticated palate. Sauvignon Blanc for Tiffany. Mike Paul, always an old fashioned. And a bourbon or a rye. You don't waste any time, that's for sure. So that's the first part of this. As we're anticipating people coming, we get our drink, we take a sip, and now we get a menu handed to us. And with the menu, what comes to mind? Something to nosh on right now. Just to get a little something in your stomach, to wake up your senses with the flavors. Is there something on the menu that's your go-to? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Just want to see where you're at with this food, the food and drink connection thing. Calamari, absolutely. Oysters, burrata. What else is coming up? Finger foods. Basically anything you can grab and shove in your face before everybody shows up and you have to share it is what I would probably think of myself. So, so we're in this moment right now, and then everybody shows up. Okay, everybody shows up. So all of a sudden, can anybody put themselves in the place of now what? What do you do? What is going to happen in the next hour, and how is it going to be meaningful or impactful? So you might think to yourself, who's leading this thing? Why am I here? Do I make small talk? Eventually the extroverts start to speak up, and then the introverts sit back, and you just kind of let go. And then the team leader steps in and asks a general question of what has been the highlight of your summer and what are your plans for the weekend as the icebreaker, or at least maybe you think it's the icebreaker. Well, you joined in with intrigue, and then maybe it feels a little bit awkward and forced, and you're wondering, when will it be over? But we know we can't put our heads in the sand, and we need a solution to remedy this. So today, we're going to show you how to design for a happy hour with impact, and we're going to go beyond happy hour. So even though happy hours seem to be like the easiest thing to do, it actually takes effort, planning, and intention to do it right. And that's why we're here today. So I'm going to come off this real quick. And does anybody know why that's echoing? Okay, great. So what I want to do is I want to align us real quick on the idea of why we're here. And I want to make a toast. So first of all, I really appreciate you being here. You have a lot of things that you could be doing. Some of you are stepping out of work because you're still in the day. And so gratitude and thank you for being here to see what it is that we do. And second of all, I want to reinforce the purpose that we're here to help you figure out how to transform ordinary moments with your coworkers into meaningful experiences that create impact. So if you have a beverage with you, cheers. If you don't, there you go. Nice. Love to see it. So we're gonna jump back into this with intention here. Okay. So let me introduce myself really quickly. My name is Ryan Hootmacher, and I'm the founder of the Well Beyond Food Project. We're in the culture building space. By trade, I'm an award-winning chef, but I'm a facilitator and an experienced designer who's been producing team building experiences and workshops for about 2 decades, which started with cooking classes years ago. And the philosophy behind the Well Beyond Food Project is that we believe that food and conversation go hand in hand, and we help our clients create connections and engagement with their teams. Now, the philosophy behind this is we believe that conversations design our lives, especially our work lives. And there's 2 conversations that are important. It's the conversations that we have with each other, and it's the conversation that we have with ourselves. Today, we're going to focus in on how to have better conversations with each other during happy hour. Now, I have a little bit of support here, and I have my colleagues from Capital H, and Lindsey and Julia, who I'll introduce in a second. They're in the culture change business too. They are experts in organizational development and team building, and together, the 3 of us do a lot of work with our clients. Can I have you say hello, ladies?
Hello, everyone. Am I freezing up?
A little
No.
bit.
Okay, something is a little slow. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, hey, everyone. My name is Lindsey. I'm co-founder of Capital H. We are a strategic HR consulting firm based in Portland, Maine. And the H in our name stands for human. Because our philosophy here is simple. What's good for humans is good for business. And as Ryan mentioned, we're in the culture change business. We believe the fastest way to build culture is building connections to yourself, to others, and to purpose. And so we help organizations with leadership coaching, human-centered culture change, and team experiences that unite, inspire, and connect people. And that's what brings us to the event today.
Bam. That is
Yes, so good to see everybody. I'm Julia. Nothing to add to Lindsay's, but it's lovely to be here and we're psyched to be working with you all today.
Thank you very much for being here, ladies. I wanted to draw attention to the agenda. We're going to get caught up on this, but the agenda today is we set the table and we're going to get ready to dive into some of the strategy behind the experience design so you can have better happy hours that are more engaging. Then we're going to do a little bit of Q&A and we're going to close this out. So with that, we're going to serve you up 3 courses within this workshop. And we are going to focus on purpose and the idea of why are we getting together? And we're going to focus on structure, which is how do we shepherd our experience so we can keep everyone focused on each other and in the purpose at hand. And then the idea of atmosphere. How do we create the best vibe to create a conducive environment? So we're going to go ahead.
Okay. Without further ado, so as we walk you through these 3 courses, we'd love if you grabbed a pen and paper or pulled up some notes so that you can kind of pull down what resonates with you and leave the rest. Ideally, we're walking you through a draft design of your next event so that this becomes really real for you. So that's our hope for you. Before you start taking notes, what I'd love to have us do is close your eyes for a moment. Imagine next to your computer on the left side, there is a hat. It's your favorite color hat. You pick it up, you turn it around, and on the front of the brim says host. So let's all put on our hat, proverbial hat, and we've officially now just stepped out of the passive bystander role and from looking in from the outside with kind of that, isn't that so interesting? Like, love that for you attitude to owning this happy hour. This is now your happy hour. You're the host, right? You're in the arena, you're making it happen. You're the steward, the shepherd, the gatherer, the leader, the organizer, and the meaning maker of this event. And so here's an easy way for us to think about designing happy hours as hosts. Designing an impactful event is like building a delicious, towering, scrumptious plate of gourmet nachos. I may or may not be having that for dinner because that looks so good. But yeah, so the first step for us as hosts is to take the advice of leadership expert and inspirational speaker Simon Sinek. Who's heard of Simon Sinek? His famous talk is all about start with your why, right? So any good gathering is asking us to start with our why. Why are we gathering, right? And the reason we ask that is because purpose actually becomes our plate. In this proverbial nacho tower that we're building, purpose is our plate. It provides structure, shape, form, foundation, and it's your North Star. Without a plate with nachos, the nachos start to go all over the place, right? You can see where we're going with this. You may be thinking to yourself, well, Julia, it's just a happy hour. Like, how complex can this purpose be, right? We get together, we have some beers, whatever. Unfortunately for us, happy hour is actually not a purpose. It's a category, like a birthday party or a retirement party or, a company offsite. It can be very vague because it doesn't tell us anything about what we're supposed to get out of it or what's going to happen when we get there. And the other issue with that is that using categories like this it causes people to show up with old ideas of what they have, that they have about what a happy hour is supposed to be like. For example, just brief history, the history of a happy hour, and this is where a lot of the old ideas come into the modern happy hour, is in the 1930s when we were dealing with prohibition. People and the sale and consumption of alcohol was completely banned in the United States. Happy hour became a phrase to describe the illegal gatherings that people participated in, centered solely around getting your fix of this banned substance. So that has translated into modern marketing for bars and restaurants where they want to get new people in the door. Nothing to do with what we need today. Times have changed significantly since the 1930s, thankfully. We're no longer sneaking whiskey in speakeasies, but we're living in modern society where, we're working in work environments where, we're hybrid, we're remote, we're sometimes in person, maybe we're always in person. It's different now. And as a result of this complexity, we need to ask new questions. So many of you have probably heard of Priya Parker, the author of The Art of Gathering. She's another one who's very prominent on purpose. She asks us to ask ourselves, when designing an event, what does our group need now? So the answer to that question becomes our plate. And we can't just have any old plate, right? Just like we probably don't want to walk into a restaurant and have our nachos served to us on a super bland paper plate, flimsy, one of those Dixie things. It's like leaky and all this stuff. Similarly, we don't want our event to be bland, boring, and flimsy. So we need to start with a solid purpose. And to create a good purpose for your event, it needs to have two characteristics. It needs to be specific and it needs to be unique. These two elements will help you add color, pizzazz, interest, and magnetism to your event. No flimsy plates allowed. So for example, given our new modern working environments, we know that right now our teams really need to build meaningful, strong relationships. People are isolated, people are working remotely. It's really awkward to get time on someone's calendar to just chat with them. That's the beginnings of the plate, but what's the specificity that somebody can hook into? We recommend, when you're thinking about workplace happy hours, that you select from work relevant topics that people can hook into later. So things like leadership or teamwork or innovation, collaboration, make that the specific purpose of your gathering. And that's what our plate will become. So let's do a little bit of an example. Ryan, if you want to take me to the next slide, we've got a sentence stem for you. So as you think about your next gathering and what your team needs, what is most relevant for you? Are you looking to bring people together over creativity? We need more innovation on our team. We need to discuss leadership. We're having a really hard time with leadership on our team. Something like that. So I'm going to invite you to fill this out with your own gathering. The purpose of this happy hour is always going to be to bring people together, but that's the flimsy paper plate. So add some more structure to it and say, right, thank you. So meeting for drinks and having fun is our flimsy paper plate. And then the great example of a more specific purpose might be get to know your coworkers as people by talking about modern leadership over a plate of gourmet nachos, a tower of gourmet nachos. So as you can see, the second example really draws people in and it will evoke passion and engagement, and people who don't like nachos won't come, but that's okay. You've now made a statement and this is what your event about, and you'll get resonance and relevancy and urgency all at the same table.
And I feel like you don't,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I feel like you don't want people at your event who don't like nachos anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
Nachos.
Does anybody have any, I know we're moving a bit fast, but are we, exactly, Dan, does anybody have an example of a purpose that there's an event you're planning that you'd like to share? What might be your magnetic purpose now that you've gone through this exercise? We can help you lead you through it too, if you've got one that you're working on but not quite landed on.
And we can keep going through the next course, if you will, while people ideate a little bit.
That sounds great. Seeing the structure piece helps you solidify your purpose sometimes as well.
Yeah. So now we've got our plate, right, Julia? Is there anything else about our plate? I think we've got our purpose. It's the purpose of this happy hour is to get to know our coworkers as people by talking about modern leadership over a towering plate of gourmet nachos.
Yeah, and we're going to take the theme of leadership just as an example and walk you through an event that we've done in the past. But you could be choosing any topic, of course, anything specific that's relevant for your team.
Yep.
Oh, so it looks like Joseph has a purpose, introducing new business associate relative to business succession happy hour.
Absolutely. So that could be something. And Joe, it'll be great to see how we can traverse that purpose throughout the entire structure of your event. Yep. As Julia said, so purpose is North Star. And Ryan, do you want to go to the second course, if you will? The second course we're going to talk about is structure, because every good gathering needs a little structure. It has a clear beginning, middle, and end. And the biggest mistake we make with happy hours is to assume that, oh, we can just show up and grab drinks and have it be casual. That makes for a fine time, but it also makes for a potentially forced or awkward or underwhelming time. So if you'd like to surprise and delight and have happy hours with impact, it does need a little bit of structure. So put a yes in the chat, and I think I already know the answer. If you've been to a virtual happy hour or in person hosted by your boss and you've joined with a little bit of anxiety and dread, you're like, I don't really know if I want to be here. You kind of have to make yourself go. You're not sure what to expect. What if you get stuck talking to someone you don't like? Put a yes in the chat if you've ever been in that situation. Most of them. Exactly. Tiffany, I see you. I see you. So the first element of structure is the invitation. And I like to call this the incognito beginning of your event. Most happy hours don't have an invitation except for the calendar invitation, which is not enough. You need an invitation. Your invite is setting the stage for a temporary social contract with your invitees to say, hey, here's what I'm asking of you. Here's where we're going. Here's what we're going to do. And here's how you can prepare. Most invites have logistics. So it's when, what are we doing? How do I show, where do I show up? It's very bland and generic. Where an invitation should really be about storytelling. You're inviting people and persuading them to buy into a story and something that you're offering. The tone is also important in your invite. Is this a playful happy hour where we're going to be asking people to play with their food? Hint, that might be coming later. Or is it more of a serious tone where you want to talk about some opportunities for improvement on your team? This is totally up to you. It's a creative endeavor, but a successful invite persuades people. And I want to give a couple of examples for a wedding invite that I received recently. The couple wrote a poem for their wedding invite. And it was like, oh, I've never seen a poem for this. It's very unique. Maybe it's going to be a non-traditional wedding and more playful than like a regal paper invite. There's a really cool restaurant in Maine called the Lost Kitchen, and they have a really unique way of inviting people. You have to send them a postcard, and then they pick the postcards out of a hat. And if you're picked, then you can make a reservation. So it says a lot about the culture of where you're going. So the invitation is going to be our chips layer on our plate of nachos. And for this specific nacho typical happy hour where we're talking about leadership, we asked people, nacho typical happy hour is a pretty playful invite or subject line. And we asked everyone to bring an object that represents great leadership to you and be prepared to share. So people brought up pictures, they brought whistles from prior coaches. It's anything, but it evokes creativity, and that's going to serve as our icebreaker a little bit later. The second aspect of structure when it comes to having a happy hour is a toast. And sometimes people get weird when we talk about toast. This is not a State of the Union nor a keynote. You don't have to stand on a podium. This is just a simple remarks. But there is an anatomy to a good toast. And it's very simple. You want to greet people with a positive affirmation. Thank you so much for coming here. They're taking time out of their busy day to come to your happy hour. And you want to say a couple of things. One, why is this important to you? Why did you take the time out of your busy day to schedule this happy hour? And why is it important to you that they showed up, that the specific people in your group showed up? And then again, what is the purpose? So you're going to be hearing us drum the purpose or the plate this whole time. And so the toast is going to be the cheese layer of the nachos.
And everyone, just as you're listening to Lindsey kind of go through examples, feel free to use any of we're saying here. This isn't like patented proprietary ideas. We want you to use everything that you're seeing here. If this ends up being the exact event that you replicate with your team, that is absolutely fantastic. So
thank you, Julia. And for this one, this is one of Ryan's favorite tricks and you can pass anything, but we played Pass the Pickle. Basically, so this was an in-person happy hour. You don't have to have a pickle, but it's kind of funny. And it's basically a talking piece. So and we'll talk about the format later, but it's kind of funny and it allows people for uninterrupted sharing. And it allows extroverts to listen a little bit more. If they don't have the pickle, they can't talk. So the third aspect here is around the icebreaker. And put a yes in the chat if you've ever asked this question. Share a fun fact about yourself. Have you ever been asked that question? I don't know about you, but that drives me insane. Hate that one. Yes. Yes, exactly. You feel like I'm not very fun. I don't have a fun fact. Then you start to beat yourself up and it's a shame spiral, right? So we don't believe in these types of surface level icebreakers. They're canned and they actually fuel exclusivity and a little bit of shame. But we do encourage having something to warm people up. You need to walk people into what is coming up next, which is around medium talk. Some questions that we love because it underscores our shared humanity is around, what was your first job? Everyone has a first job. Most everyone, I guess I should say. What was your first job? What's the best gift you've ever given or received? We like to play a game called This or That. It's very quick to kind of find your people. The sweet or savory, you divide people into two groups and then you share your favorite sweet or savory item. Beach or mountains, coffee or tea. You see where I'm going? One of our other favorites is draw a picture of your best self. What are you doing? Who are you being? And then share that with the group. For the leadership or for the not so typical happy hour party, happy hour, what we did was around, oh yeah, I already mentioned this, is bring an object that represents great leadership to you. I'm curious, has anyone had, like, icebreakers can usually be kind of cringy, and even calling them that, we hesitate, but that's just a well-known term. Has anyone had a fantastic icebreaker that you want to share with the group? That you remember that you were like, yeah, that was actually pretty cool. And if not, that just says a lot about the work that we have to do as an industry.
Wade's smiling.
Yeah.
I have one I've used with family and coworkers that has been like a real, like, everyone loves, and it's really simple, but it's asking people like what concert are they looking forward to going to next. And why I like it is similar to food. Most of us have an affinity for certain types of music. And when people talk about that, like, they get I think that the biggest piece of it is people just get really excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that you really learn, like, you learn a little bit about someone, but it just gets people engaged. Like, it's gone over well every time I've done it.
Yeah, I love it. And music is another one of those universal languages, right? That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Wade. So the next aspect of structure, my personal favorite is around medium talk. So we already talked about small talk. You can all surmise what medium talk is. We're not going for full vulnerability and disclosure. This is still a work event. So medium talk is about selective vulnerability and talking about topics that, again, reveal our shared humanity. And so the characteristics of good medium talk questions are business relevant, that promote personal sharing. So topics like, we've already mentioned a few, like we wouldn't want to talk about a TV show or golfing necessarily. It's leadership, teamwork, resilience, fulfillment, these aspects that traverse our home and work lives that we can do some personal storytelling around. And then always related to your purpose. Purpose. Everything relates back to your purpose. A couple of our favorites are, if you were guaranteed to make $1 million by writing a book, what would you write about? Another one is, what's a dream you have? What's a time in your life when you felt resilient? And the one that we asked for leadership, or the couple of ones that we asked for the next layer of the the nachos, what's one of the best leaders you've had? Cannot be your current one. That'd be awkward. And why? What was a time in your life when you felt most like a leader? So again, this is like more of a creative process than an art, but these are really powerful questions that open up, again, selective vulnerability and help you actually get to know the people that you work with or the people that you're with. And one of the important things, just to kind of put an asterisk on the medium talk, is a circle format. So it's really important. I facilitated many groups where you pose a question to the group and the same people are chiming in, the extroverts. This isolates the introverts. It reinforces the behavior of the extroverts. And so we do a circle format. This is why the pickle or the onion ring or whatever talking piece you want to use is important. It forces the extroverts to listen and the introverts get uninterrupted time to talk. So I highly encourage using the circle format.
And Lindsey, one thing to add about that, as you all are thinking through the specificity of your purpose and kind of what you want your event to be about, giving it some weight and some color. If you're thinking, wow, I really want to talk about innovation, the idea isn't to talk about innovation itself or leadership itself. As Lindsey has described, just to kind of put a little more depth, is we're evoking personal sharing on business relevant topics. So when you do select a topic, make sure that the question you ask isn't about the thing itself. It's about somebody's personal either feelings about it, experience with it, issues with it, things like that, so that you get more rich storytelling instead of just a bunch of key opinion leaders who have things to say about current events, because that is really not medium. That's in your small area, is giving opinions about things external to us.
That's a really good point. Yeah, thanks, Julia. So here's where it starts to get interesting. So Ryan, our resident expert for, again, using food to connect people, this is around a food interaction. And obviously, this is not required to have an incredible going beyond happy hour, but it'll make you, it's just a really fun, powerful, playful way to make your happy hour, I was going to say forgettable, unforgettable. So Ryan, do you want to tee up a couple of your examples?
Yeah,
For food interaction?
We're seeing the layered nacho effect right now. I think finding metaphors for people basically helps to ground people in the reality that, we have so much more in common. And so this idea of using food as metaphors, this is just something that I've tested out, and it's just been well received in a bar setting or in a restaurant. But it's the idea of message in the sand. And so this idea of, if you're marooned on an island and you're in trouble, what are you going to write in the sand that you want people to see? But translate this over to grab a packet of sugar on a small little plate and dump it in front of you, and everybody's in a circle. And the idea is, what do you need to grow or to be empowered in the work that you're doing right now so you can evolve as a leader, or you can have a more fulfilled career trajectory? And so what people do is they can share that word by basically scraping or etching in the sand or in the sugar a word that would kind of help the leader hear them and see them. And so the idea of autonomy, need more independence as your employee. I need more independence to grow. Or maybe it's work-life balance. So balance is the word. But it's this idea of creating a medium that is unrelated to anything else, where people can express themselves in a non-judgmental way. And one of the other ways that's really outside of the box that I've done with a couple groups, Tiffany, who was just in the group, may have experienced some of this, is if you bring a prop, I believe that letting people paint or create on their plates, using apps as art, or using even baby food as art, you can do the same thing. You can have people write a word on the plate or create an abstract work of art that expresses, maybe in the form of leadership, what are the attributes that you think a good leader has, that you aspire to be? Or was there a time in your life where you did something that was difficult and you learned something from it? There's no right or wrong, and there's no judgment. So the idea of using creativity creates that equal playing ground of non-judgment. And it doesn't matter what your plate looks like, but the story is in the sharing. And so this is the idea of using food to connect people in metaphoric ways. Lindsay, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, is the next one the menu taboo?
Yep.
So what we did for the leadership nacho typical happy hour is a game that we call Menu Taboo, where you pair up with people. So two people pair up. Who's played the game Taboo before? Where you have to get your partner to say the word without saying the word, so that they can describe it, but they can't say the word. So it's like a taboo word. So if Eric and I are paired up, we're at dinner, and Eric has to be, I have to order for Eric, and Eric has to guide me what to order for him without telling me what he wants. So it's using leadership skills like empathy, deep listening, decision making. It's a way to be, and it's a way to connect with people. I've never had dinner with Eric. I have no idea what he likes for dinner, but you get to know him in that process. So that was a really fun way to kind of tie a bow on the leadership aspect. And so Ryan, I think we can add the guac. Are we on the guac already? Oh, the close. So the close, intentionally closing a happy hour. Usually we just drift off, people leave when they have to. It's important to set an end time to your happy hour so we can make meaning and intentionally curate a closing. A good closing, again, has a specific end time. The leader takes charge of that moment and expresses gratitude again, reinforces the purpose. We like to close, I don't know if you've heard of Brene Brown's 2-word check-in, but going around in a circle and saying 2 words, where are you at right now? Fulfilled and full, or connected and happy, whatever those are, going around and getting that. And then we gave everyone Daniel Goleman's Primal Leadership book as a parting gift. It's $10, ordered them on Amazon, and it's just a way to, again, reinforce the theme. And then we ended with a group photo. And it was a lovely event. People, it's not forgettable. People still talk about it today. So I think, Rye, the last course is around atmosphere, and I want to make sure that we get to show them the deluxe nachos, which is your video, your case study.
Yes, I'm gonna zip through this really quickly.
Yep.
The idea of the third course being atmosphere. It's this idea that you want to create a vibe and you want to maintain the vibe, and it's a delicate balance to do. And the idea is you want to create a feeling in people. And most of it revolves around trust. But in order to do that, you have to set yourself up for success by creating the right environment. So, for example here, if you want to do a beyond happy hour event, you have to leave the building. You must exit the building. And for remote workers and hybrid working environments, I would challenge you to talk to your teams about stepping out of the home office and maybe go into the she shed, or maybe go into the garage, or maybe go into the basement and just kick out and lean against the couch and do something. But leaving the environment that we're used to being in for work stimulates us in a different way and allows us to leave kind of the baggage and some of the expectations at the door. Now, I like to think of the idea of creating a bubble. And so this is definitely more of an art than it is a science, this idea of creating the bubble. But think about the place that you're going to pick to create a bubble. First of all, location is really important. You need to make it convenient for your team for an in-person experience, okay? Now, the positioning is the idea of you want to create an equal landscape, so everyone can see one another. If it's a small enough group, get everybody at one table or a banquette. And if it's a larger group, split people up into 2 groups, but make sure everyone can see each other. And you want to mix it up cross-functionally and break up cliques that are within groups and make opportunities for new connections. Because within this bubble, what's also important is in the bubble, we can have light and we can have sound that comes in, right? Natural light really is important to the idea of just creating this a fresh perspective for people, like subconsciously. And the sound, whether it's ambient chatter or people having great conversation, is really important, right? Because nothing is worse than being in a vacuum, right? With total silence where you can hear anything and everything, and it's just awkward. So the idea of having some music that's ambiently playing is great. So the bubble, it has a little bit of give to it. And we're going to go into a couple scenarios very quickly right here of in-person ideal and non-ideal situations. All right. Your bubble is not going to do very well right next to the bowling alley, right next to where people are high-fiving each other, slamming shots, and screaming when they get a strike. It's probably not ideal. If you have a food hall and there's an 8-foot table that's in the corner where everybody else in the restaurant or the food hall is convening and you have the chatter, that's a little bit more ideal right there. But the best scenario for in-person is going to be maybe an outdoor terrace that's a little bit separated by people. Maybe there's some planters that are in the way to create more of a boundary for you. You can hear the ambient music in the background, you can hear the chatter, but you have the openness of the outside to create the softness for you to connect with one another. So those are some examples of in-person. As far as not ideal, is basically saying bring a beverage and tune in. You can tell, I don't know if anybody's ever felt like this guy before, but it gets a little redundant.
Every day.
So what's a step up from that? A step up from that is hopefully, there we go. Some companies give gift certificates so everybody can order the same thing and have a little bit of uniformity to the experience. Or maybe you send out gift packages of charcuterie so you can all sit down in uniformity doing something together. And the level up on that is, let's have a themed event. Let's do something where we're all having fun and being playful together. And maybe let's use props. Personally, that's one of my favorite things to do. So this is this atmosphere vibe is that final layer on top. Now here's what I want to do. I want to show you how we use food to connect organizations with a case study that we did called Feasting on Purpose. And so I want you to watch this video and we'll come back together and we'll talk about it. Corporate dinners bring people together, but often they lack impact. So what if these gatherings could be maximized with intentional outcomes? We know that if you nourish a company culture, it fuels productivity, which is why our programs use food and conversation to create a connected, engaged, and inclusive workforce. This is the Well Beyond Food Project. Recently, we had the privilege of working with Simrise Food and Beverage of North America. They're a global ingredient company. Now, as a progressive-minded company, they know all about the value of an engaged workforce, especially for the remote teams. At a recent company offsite, we produced one of our uncorporate team dinner experiences to not only connect their teams to one another, but to connect them to their common mission. Each of the courses that we served acted as a metaphor to exemplify the values of the company so that the teams could continue to move forward together. Check it out. The event tonight with Simrise was very successful. And the whole concept was basically, we wanted to blend a workshop with a team build experience, but do it in the format of a multi-chef, multi-course, progressive pop-up dinner. We've got 5 courses, and tonight, each of the courses is going to contextualize a value within the company. Let's see how we can do food with purpose. Here we go. I want to talk about customer obsessed as part of the sales mindset. The course that we're cooking to right now is about customer obsessed. I think customer obsessed is listening deeply to our clients and looking for the opportunity to optimize something for them. Customer obsessed to me is about creating an experience. You're going to use your plate like a canvas and go around your table and talk about someone that wowed you or something that wowed you in the customer experience.
The whole concept was a lot of fun. A unique experience, eating some good food and tying everything into our goals and how we're going to get there.
I've worked with Chef Ryan a couple of times. Everything he does is about bringing people together and empowering them. It really is a special way of doing service.
I would like to challenge you to sit with someone across from someone you don't know. It's very important for this next course.
A relaxed atmosphere, and it got everyone a chance to collaborate in a different experience than we're used to. Usually we all just go to dinner and sit with who we want to sit with, and this forced us to just, talk to different people and expand our horizons.
bringing people together, using food as a universal language, and creating amazing conversations about things that matter.
When you could work together and do things together, that opens doors.
My biggest takeaway from the night is that a team can enter a building like this, not know exactly what to expect. They can come in with an open mind, still have some doubts, experience it, and leave just beyond excited.
Ryan was great to work with the whole time. He was very open to all the ideas that we had and just really partnering together to help us find the perfect space, create the perfect menu, and it was a great partnership beginning to end.
Why wouldn't you want to do this? It was awesome.
For those who really want to create a different culture, a culture of togetherness, a culture where people can be candid, a culture of gratefulness, then they should start here and look no further.
So that, my friends, is the full plate of nachos right there. The idea of working with the client to figure out a way to create better engagement through a company that had acquired other companies, had some standard operating procedures that were just misaligned, and new leadership coming in. And so this is the way that we're using food to connect people within organizations. So, Lindsey.
I'm really curious to hear from folks. We've been in the experience design space for a while, but what are you drawn to do differently, perhaps, at your next happy hour based on today? One small tweak or maybe one major overhaul, but what would be something I'd love to hear from each of you if you're able to share on what you might do differently? You don't have to raise your hand, you can just chime in.
I think I like the idea. I work for a global organization, so I have coworkers and colleagues in 46 different countries. So I like the idea of setting the purpose and being intentional about what is going to happen, kind of preparing the what's gonna be happening through this, giving them an idea. And I like that the icebreaker, just to make sure that we're integrating people and not just letting the usual talkers be the one that dominate the microphone.
Yes, and I love that, Debbie. I think just having a purpose and an invite that helps people know what to expect, and an icebreaker, just doing that, and that's a lot, can go a long way in transforming your happy hour. I think that's fantastic. Debbie, I'm curious, do most of your are they remote, virtual? I'm assuming you're not all flying in to have
that is correct. We're virtual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing. What else?
I think for me, it shifted it from a must-have to actually a tool that you can employ to solve problems. I'm already sitting here, Ryan, thinking, because we've had some new people start, oh, we should do one of these because we're all virtual. The company that I work for, we have no home office. We are 100% virtual. We've, had a couple of new people start, and I feel like we could do this not only to get to know one another better, but also to sort of address some of the things that we're facing right now as far as, business challenges go, and what, how could we be doing these things better and leveraging the expertise that we all bring to the table.
Exactly. It brings a seriousness to it, and it's a very adaptable format once you know kind of what the components are. And I mean, the sky is the limit in terms of how creative you choose to get, but now it's okay, I have a formula for, hey, we need to start dealing with conflict better. We need to improve our cross-functional collaboration. Those are very rich purposes in themselves, and you can build from there. So yeah, thank you so much, Tiffany, for sharing that application.
Yeah, and just to build on that, Julia, one of the other things that we've done for an organization, when you want to use it to integrate new hires or improve the way you do certain things, walking people into the depths of that conversation. So the theme could be leadership, and we want to talk about how to be better leaders at our organization, using those medium talk questions that we talked about personal sharing, and then having the last question, leaving 30, 40 minutes to talk about what are some leadership qualities in our organization that we want to amplify, or where are some gaps that we have? That way you've already spent the time building that container of trust to have a very real conversation, an hour into your event or so. We'd be happy to share how we've done that in the past, Tiffany, if useful. That's great.
I want to add if I could, to Tiffany. Tiffany, if you don't mind me saying, it's almost like you have been part of a case study, and because of it, and how we met each other during one of the uncorporate dinner experiences that I just kind of featured, you ended up working with a completely different organization because of it. You made solid connections at this.
I sure did. Yep. No, I think, and I credit it to that event that Ryan had. And it was funny to see, because that first slide you had up, my picture was in that lower right-hand corner, because I was sitting in that circle there next to the empty chair. But yes, I mean, these are transformative. I would not have the job that I have right now if I had not gone to your event.
And
Congrats.
That's humbling to hear. And this is not an audience plant. I'm like you, a healthcare executive making a transition to another organization is no small feat. And to be a part of that it's humbling. So thank you for being here and taking the time today.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is we're going to get ready to round this out, unless anybody else might have something to share or say, but I just wanted to put it out there. The call to action today is, if you have some needs and you would like some free help, some customizations on an event that you might be putting together, I'm going to set aside the big bucks consulting fees, and I want you to connect with me, and we can set aside a half an hour of time, and we can see how you are creating events that are going to connect your teams, and whether I can just help you tweak something that you're self-sufficient in, or if I can help you design something and you'd want to partner in the future. I would love to connect with you. And I can tell you, Lindsey and Julia, their expertise in the instructional design element and actually creating some of the strategies behind what it is that we do together is also highly valuable. So I can also figure out a way to connect you to them as well. So my email is right there for you. Anything else you want to wrap up, Julia or Lindsey?
Maybe just a toast of gratitude, raising our glasses one more time to close it out. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We really appreciate it, and hope to see you again next time, and take what you can forward, because you all have a lot of influence even in your, if you think your circle is small, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. You really have the ability to change the way people gather and improve connections between people, just by doing something even small. So thank you for participating, and we hope to see you again. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.